The NBA has witnessed countless blockbuster moves, but what just happened may eclipse them all. Out of nowhere, the Boston Celtics have pulled off a maneuver so audacious that even seasoned insiders are struggling to process it. Donovan Mitchell, a superstar once seen as the untouchable cornerstone of Cleveland, is now wearing green and white. This is not a rumor, it is not speculation, it is reality. And the implications of this transfer reach far beyond the court. They stretch into questions of ambition, loyalty, and the kind of fearless strategy that only franchises destined for greatness dare to pursue. Behind the official announcement lies a story of relentless pursuit, hidden meetings, and a carefully calculated strategy from Boston's front office. Reports suggest that negotiations intensified during the month of July in the year 2025, with numbers that stunned even veteran executives. Donovan Mitchell's contract was structured with a long-term vision, including a deal worth over $250 million spread across 5 seasons, a sum that signaled not just an acquisition, but a statement of intent. This was Boston telling the entire league that their championship window is not just open, it is fortified, reinforced, and ready for a dynasty run. What makes this move so shocking is not only the financial commitment, but also the timing. The Eastern Conference had been drifting into uncertainty, with Philadelphia navigating internal drama, Milwaukee struggling with age and health, and Miami searching for another identity after postseason heartbreak. Into this volatile landscape stepped the Celtics, already the reigning champions, doubling down on ambition and refusing to be satisfied. By adding Mitchell, they did not just strengthen their roster. They redefined the meaning of competitive hunger, showing that dominance requires constant evolution and that true power in the NBA is never static. For Donovan Mitchell himself, the decision was more than professional. Insiders whisper that his frustrations in Cleveland began long before the trade chatter surfaced. Sources mention that during closed-door meetings in February of 2025, Mitchell clashed with Cavaliers management about offensive schemes and roster direction. He reportedly questioned whether the franchise had the courage to surround him with the kind of elite talent necessary for deep playoff runs. While the Cavaliers publicly downplayed tension, Mitchell's private circle knew that his patience was thinning. The final straw may have come during the postseason exit, where conversations behind the scenes made clear that visions were no longer aligned. Boston sensed the fracture and acted faster than anyone expected. The Celtics' pitch was both emotional and strategic. They presented Mitchell with a vision of pairing his explosive scoring with Jason Tatum's versatility and Jaylen Brown's two-way dominance. They showed him how Boston's defensive schemes could free him to focus on offensive devastation, how the coaching staff was prepared to maximize his strengths without forcing him into predictable patterns. More importantly, they promised him a stage, the parquet floor that has hosted legends from Bill Russell to Larry Bird, a legacy that Mitchell could now join and extend. The reaction has been electric. Within hours of the announcement, merchandise sales spiked, ticket demand surged, and analysts began rewriting pre-season predictions. Some are already calling the Celtics favorites not only for the 2026 season, but for a multi-year reign. Social media exploded with comparisons to blockbuster moves of the past, with fans debating whether Mitchell's arrival could rival Kevin Garnett's historic introduction to Boston in 2007. But this story is not simply about nostalgia or hype. The tactical implications are staggering. Imagine playoff defenses forced to decide whether to double Tatum, Brown, or Mitchell. Imagine late-game situations where Mitchell's ability to create his own shot stretches defenses to breaking points. Boston now has 3 legitimate closers, a luxury almost unheard of in modern basketball. This changes rotations, game planning, and even trade strategies for rival franchises. General managers across the league are scrambling, not because Mitchell joined a contender, but because he joined the contender that was already setting the standard. The emotional weight of his transfer is just as powerful. Cavaliers fans are left devastated, grappling with the sudden void of leadership and the harsh reminder that loyalty in professional sports is fragile. Meanwhile, Celtics supporters feel an intoxicating mix of disbelief and euphoria, as if the franchise has once again been chosen by destiny. The echoes of this decision ripple beyond Boston and Cleveland. Every franchise with championship dreams is recalculating, aware that the Celtics have just raised the bar. There is also the cultural dimension. Mitchell's move is being framed as a statement about ambition and personal growth. In interviews leading up to the signing, he spoke about legacy, about wanting to challenge himself at the highest level. Boston offered that chance in a way Cleveland never could. This was not betrayal, it was evolution. And for Celtics fans, it represents hope not only for victories, but for iconic moments, for highlight reels that will be replayed for decades, for banners that may soon hang from the rafters of TD Garden. Every headline now revolves around one central axis. How will Donovan Mitchell fit into the Celtics system? And how quickly will that integration translate into dominance? Analysts dissect practice footage, preseason comments, and even body language, searching for signs of chemistry. Fans speculate about matchups against Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, and Jimmy Butler, envisioning playoff series that could define the decade. The sense of anticipation is overwhelming, as if the entire season is already scripted to climax around Boston's new Big Three. Behind all the hype remains one undeniable fact. This is a moment of transformation. The Celtics did not settle for defending champions. They reached for more, and in doing so, they turned the NBA landscape upside down. Donovan Mitchell's arrival in Boston is not just about scoring averages or contract figures. It is about ambition, legacy, and the audacity to rewrite what is possible. For the fans in green, the message is clear. The future is not something to wait for. The future has already arrived. NBA thrives on unexpected turns, and just when it seemed the conversation around the Boston Celtics was set on the future of Jason Tatum and the next generation of stars, another story has begun to gather momentum. It is not about statistics or injury reports, but about memory, redemption, and the possibility of rewriting a chapter that was left unfinished. The name is Isaiah Thomas, and his connection to Boston is far more than basketball. It is about identity, resilience, and the kind of bond that refuses to fade with time. Max Letterman from NBC Sports Boston recently touched on what many fans still whisper about, the idea that Brad Stevens should explore the return of Isaiah Thomas, whether on the court or on the sidelines. This is not a casual suggestion. It is a proposal that challenges the franchise to recognize the weight of history and to embrace an opportunity that could carry more meaning than any short-term tactical adjustment. Stevens, known for his pragmatic and forward-thinking approach, is now facing a moment where sentiment and strategy might collide. Isaiah Thomas has been more than a player in Boston. Between 2014 and 2017, he embodied the kind of underdog story that the city has always loved. He was undersized, overlooked, and yet he rose to the level of MVP candidate, finishing fifth in voting in 2017 and etching his name into Celtic lore. Fans remember not just the points and the fourth-quarter explosions, but the way he carried himself during personal tragedy, the way he played through pain, and the way he became a symbol of defiance against expectation. What makes this possible reunion so captivating is not whether Thomas can replicate his former glory. Everybody knows he endured devastating hip injuries, that his career trajectory shifted dramatically, and that the burst and vertical lift never truly returned. What matters here is something less tangible, yet equally powerful. Boston has always been a franchise that honors legacy, and Thomas represents an unfinished business that still lingers in the minds of those who filled TD Garden chanting his name. Bringing him back is not about minutes or box scores, it is about closing a circle that was left open when he was traded in the summer of 2017. The Celtics are entering a retooling season, a year where expectations have shifted because of the Achilles injury suffered by Jason Tatum. Without their centerpiece, the conversation naturally gravitates to how the team can remain competitive while also planning for the long term. Depth in the front court is a real concern, but equally pressing is the need to maintain a sense of identity and unity within the locker room. This is where Isaiah Thomas becomes more than an idea. His presence, even if symbolic, could infuse the roster with energy, accountability, and the kind of emotional lift that analytics cannot measure. Max Letterman suggested that he would pay Isaiah Thomas to be part of the organization in any role, and that sentiment captures the essence of this movement. It is not about hoping he suddenly averages 20 points per game again. It is about the aura he brings. Players listen when he speaks because they know he has lived through battles most cannot imagine. Fans respond to him because they see a reflection of Boston's grit in his story. Coaches can lean on his voice because his perspective bridges eras, reminding the current roster that success is not just built on talent, but on perseverance. Financially, the idea is not burdensome. Thomas is a free agent, and any contract would likely be a veteran minimum, a figure so small in the modern salary cap landscape that it barely moves the ledger. For a franchise operating with a long-term vision, this is an investment not in production, but in culture. And culture, as history shows, often dictates who survives the storms of transition. Think of how the Miami Heat have relied on the presence of veterans like Udonis Haslem far beyond their prime, or how the San Antonio Spurs cultivated continuity by keeping leaders tied to the locker room even after their peak years. Isaiah Thomas could become Boston's version of that stabilizing figure. The curiosity gap here lies in what Isaiah would actually bring if this scenario unfolds. Would he lace up again, accepting a limited role off the bench, perhaps playing spot minutes to ignite the crowd and remind everyone of what once was? Or would he pivot into a player-coach hybrid, serving as a mentor to young guards like Peyton Pritchard and J.D. Davison, while symbolizing the bridge between eras? Both options hold weight, both carry intrigue, and both would feed into the narrative of Boston as a franchise that not only chases banners, but also honors the journey of those who helped build its foundation. There is also a deeper emotional thread to consider. When Isaiah Thomas was traded, many fans felt that something pure was lost. They understood the reasoning, they understood the pursuit of a championship required difficult decisions, but the abruptness of his departure left scars. Bringing him back, in whatever role, offers a chance for healing, not just for the player, but for the fan base and the organization. It is rare in professional sports that such an opportunity presents itself, and rarer still that it aligns with a moment where the franchise is recalibrating its ambitions. And while Isaiah Thomas represents the past, Jason Tatum represents the future. His name is already being linked to the MVP trophy by legends like Chris Bosh, who sees him as the most likely American-born player to capture the award in the coming years. The Achilles injury is a setback, but not a definition. Tatum's recovery, as Jordan Walsh has detailed, is progressing well, and when he returns, he will once again carry the torch as the face of the franchise. What better way to prepare the stage for that comeback than to have Isaiah Thomas present, symbolizing the resilience and determination that will define Tatum's own return? In a league where narratives matter almost as much as performance, this potential reunion with Isaiah Thomas stands as a story worth watching. It would not be about chasing numbers or rewriting stat sheets. It would be about karma, about legacy, about the power of a franchise to look backward and forward at the same time. Boston has always been a city where history matters, where names from decades past are still spoken with reverence. Isaiah Thomas, despite the brevity of his tenure, belongs in that conversation. The question is whether Brad Stevens and the Celtics leadership will recognize that the value he brings cannot be quantified on a spreadsheet. Because sometimes in the pursuit of greatness, the most important moves are not the ones that shock the trade machine or dominate the headlines, but the ones that restore faith, inspire belief, and remind everyone why the game matters in the first place. And right now, the Boston Celtics have a chance to do exactly that.